This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
Okay, we're on. Let's go.
Let's fucking go.
Dude, you know if there's any way does it automatically get recorded?
It does every time.
Epic. Epic. Okay.
Let's run it.
So what do you think? You want to just start riffing and then we'll see if people filter in?
Let's do it. Yeah, just start on whatever's top of mind for you, and then we'll just go from there.
Yeah, so okay, I'm like majorly multitasking right now. I'm driving. I have like a 45-minute drive right now.
Nice.
So I got to make sure I'm navigating directions and stuff, but this feels right. And I've been playing a lot of basketball this week, like really competitive 5-on-5 full court basketball at like 6 a.m. So where I'm at, these people are hooping like a few days a week before their corporate jobs. And I'm just missing turns left and right now. So let me lock in for a second. All right, we good. Um, but it's been really powerful to get into my masculine energy and like get into the warrior energy for the rest of the day, starting the day with competition. And I think as men we need to compete to feel truly alive and vital. I think when we stop competing, we lose that. We lose that edge, we lose that vitality, we lose that presence. When you're competing, you have nothing else to do other than be fully there. And it translates to all of life. But
Why do you
now
think that is?
competition's a an interesting nuanced subject because it can become toxic or it can be playful.
Mm-hmm.
There's a quote from the Tao Te Ching. It's like the master. What does it say? It's like the master competes for the sake of play. Like
Huh.
he loves to compete, but it does not actually matter. He's just doing it for the sake of play.
Ooh, this is reminding me of something. This is a. I saw a tweet recently that was talking about this. How um, we should, like, when you stop and observe um, and pay attention, you realize that kids actually take their play very, very seriously. Like, kids get very, very invested in whatever game you're doing. Um,
Yes.
and a lot of times when you grow up, you're kind of like, I don't know, you kind of get scared of like trying or of like trying too hard. You know, oh, he's a try hard. He's, trying to prove something. Um, but I think like the being able to like fully let go and like play like a kid would is to like almost like totally like lose yourself in the game and give it your absolute best, yet know that like the outcome of the match like is not going to affect your identity too much. Like
Right.
your ego is not tied up in the competition, because I think that's when competing goes from being like, healthy masculinity to just like being kind of like, I don't know, immature and just trying to like, you know show whose dick is bigger,
Yes.
because I think that
And
can also happen.
there's a time and place for like being able to be in that energy. Like if somebody's coming at you on the basketball court, like are you just going to be this woo woo spiritual, like everything's great? Or are you going to like be able to like match that energy, but still not get completely caught up in it?
Mm. Right. It's super contextual, because like sometimes it's like it's not worth it, like to expend your energy um, for the sake of a competition. Um, Other times though, like if your honor is at stake, or if your family's reputation is at stake, I think that's when like you need to take that more seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you're pretty grounded in who you are, you kind of can just let a lot of things go without taking them too
Yes.
personally.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I got fucking pissed today at
Oh
one
yeah.
point.
What
Not
happened?
like
What
not
happened
like
today?
super pissed, but okay, so I've been playing pickup at my gym,
Mhm.
and the first day it was interesting to kind of watch myself through this process because I haven't played like full court pickup 5-on-5 basketball in a while. I was like the youngest dude on the court or one of the youngest dudes on the court.
Mhm.
And that first game, like there's a little bit of timid. I'm a little bit timid.
Mhm.
There's like I don't really want to shoot it yet. I don't really feel confident in my dribble.
Mhm.
But in the second day when I went back, completely different energy.
Uh huh.
Like I'm just okay, fuck. I know these guys now. I feel confident. I feel comfortable. I'm just gonna let it rip. And
Mhm.
so since that, like I've been balling. I've been balling. Like I've been playing pretty good.
Mhm.
And so today, my team went like we were like 4-0, 5-0. So like when you play pickup, you stay on the court if you keep winning. So if you
Right.
want to keep playing, you have to win, which is
Mhm.
interesting too. And so we were up like we're playing to 15 or we're playing to 11.
Mhm.
We're up 9-7 and
Mhm.
we totally should have won this game.
Mhm.
And there's a dude on the other team, another little point guard. He's kind of like shit talking me the whole time. I don't
Mhm.
really engage in that, but I'm
Mhm.
not gonna back down.
Right.
And we should have won the game, and we lost. And I was like, fuck. I was actually pissed. I was like, I just threw the ball across the court,
Yeah.
and I'm like, all right, I'm not leaving on a fucking loss. I'm winning.
That's
We're
good.
winning, and then I'm
Yeah.
leaving. And then we came back and we won, and it just felt so good to not back down from the challenge.
Mhm.
And I think it doesn't matter what sport you're playing. It can be Muay Thai, it can be wrestling, it can be boxing, it can be basketball, it can be fucking pickleball. I don't care.
Right.
But as I think as men, true vitality does not come from just lifting weights in the gym or just going on walks or staying healthy,
Mm-hmm.
it truly comes from getting into the competitive spirit that forces you to channel into a different energy that you usually don't tap into in normal life.
It's almost like, yeah, sure, you can be an organized person. You can have like all these things, be super productive, do X, Y, Z, like look like a guy, talk like a guy. But like, what do you do when shit gets competitive? What do you do when someone starts like getting up in your face? How you respond, I think that is probably the measure of a man.
Mm, mm. And I think something else that was coming through is like, there's a reason to me that guys like Joe Rogan or even Andrew Huberman, Lex Friedman, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, like these guys are in some ways at the pinnacle of the world and the pinnacle of masculinity, just with like the impact they have and how many people they serve and support. It's not a coincidence to me that these guys also all do some type of martial art or some type of competitive endeavor. Yo, can you still hear me or am I cutting out? All right, I think Juanico. Oh, there he's back now.
There we go. That was a little weird.
I see we got Brett in here. What's up, Brett? How we doing? Great to see you. Brett, we're hopping into a conversation right now about the masculine spirit and how competition breeds vitality, whether it's with other men or even with oneself. Um, so, I mean, if you feel like you want to share any insights, feel free, pop up. If not, we're going to keep flowing. But one, when you hopped off, I was talking about a lot of these like very high level entrepreneurs, CEO types.
Mhm.
They all do martial arts. Like Zuckerberg does jujitsu. I know people shit on him, but there's a reason that they're getting into that energy. It translates.
I agree, bro. I mean, I think it's because you once you reach a certain like level, you realize that yeah, you could have all the money in the world, you could have all the cars, you could have all the external showings of a man, but if you can't defend yourself in a street fight, uh, it doesn't count for shit. And I think subconsciously every guy understands this, which is why they feel like a pull towards combat and fighting. And especially these guys who like are so intellectual. It's like yeah, you almost feel the need to counterbalance that strength and intellect with physical strength, and I think that is like the ultimate combo because you can have a guy who's very skilled with physical combat, but like if they don't have the intellectual component, then that can also not like be used in not like the best way. So having that like
Yes.
that duality of skills, I think, is super important.
Mm. Yeah. How is this showing up for you in your life right now?
It's a good question. Let me think about that. Hmm.
And honestly, I'll give a little context to my own situation is when I stopped playing football 3 years ago, I started to compete with myself
Mm-hmm.
with lifting and with running, which was really good for me. But when I went to Thailand last summer, I really got deep into my feminine energy for the first time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Like so deep into my feminine that I was completely okay with not working out more than I just felt like just completely being at peace, resting.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't disciplined. I wasn't really working. I was just completely flowing with life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I did play a little bit of basketball, which I think was really good for me there. Like, that's a staple of my life. It's got to be sports,
Mm-hmm.
just for keeping that competitive spirit and energy alive. But what felt like happened was in those 3 months of the deep surrender, the masculine drive atrophied in a way. Um, and I felt like I've had to rebuild that up. And I think that was at the root of my desire to even go back and play football
Hmm.
was I want to feel like a fucking warrior again.
Hmm. Almost like yeah, you're like tapping into some like ancestral feelings. or like motivations.
Yes.
Hmm.
And the first and this kind of all just clicked for me yesterday. So it's funny how sometimes insights from psychedelic trips, or this was specifically ayahuasca, doesn't click until 7 or 8 months later, or even maybe years later. And what I
Wow.
realized was at the root of my insights, the insight that came to me in a dream to go play football again, was rooted in the first ceremony. The first ceremony was not very deep or spiritual or mystical or anything. It was me, like it was this intense anger and energy like in my solar plexus that just wanted to express itself. And like I wanted to start doing push-ups in the middle of the ayahuasca ceremony. Just like I was like, fuck, I fucking lost this energy. And I want to get it back. And I think that was the root of the subconscious insight to go back and play football. And I think beyond this year, because I know not everybody in here is a college athlete or anything, but even as a woman too, just that discipline to get into an athletic spirit and get into a competitive spirit is so important for spiritual vitality. Now, Olivia requested to speak. Let's see. I don't know if we want to allow Olivia to speak. Um,
Do you know
oh,
Olivia? Oh,
no, I don't.
yeah.
But
I don't know if I want her to speak either.
and
Uh,
it's no shots or anything. But I mean, what do we think? Should we?
uh, I'm open to it.
Let's just see. Let's see what happens. And if it's not aligned, then we can pop her
You
off.
can pop her off. All right. Do you want to bring her on?
She's connecting right now.
Okay.
It's just spinning. I don't know if she's gonna connect.
Okay. Have you seen the way Brute handles this during his spaces?
You said what?
Have you heard the way have you like listened enough to Brute? Oh, there he goes. She left.
Okay, cool. Still says connecting for me, but I think let's just hop back into our flow.
All right, let's just keep going. Yeah, dude, I love how you touch on like the. It's almost like yeah, like your body just needs different things for different seasons, and I think it's really dope that like you are willing to trust that intuition and like pretty much upend your lifestyle completely to go like satisfy that craving that your body has. Um,
Mm,
because like most people I think would be like, oh, like they would just like dismiss that or like be like, oh, it's probably just like a small thing. Um, but like you literally went from totally nomading, like total fucking freedom. You know, you were in Thailand, like you were like traveling a ton, to literally like willfully submitting yourself to like school, like not like college, just to play like football. Like you went from like the most open and free flowing environment to one of the most rigid, just so you could experience that like competition, uh, which
yeah.
shows like how deep it actually is, like how important it
And
is for you.
yeah, and I love the reflection and I appreciate it. And I feel seen. And a few thoughts on that. One is that going back to college has been the medicine journey, because in any medicine journey that is really profound and transformational, I mean, sometimes the very blissful ones, of course, are just to show you what's possible and that all is well. But it is oftentimes, in my experience, the really challenging journeys that breed the most growth. And we find that in the microcosm of like an ayahuasca ceremony or the microcosm of a mushroom trip or whatever, getting through the challenging emotions, processing them, letting them go. But life is one entire psychedelic trip, like we've talked about many times. And so going back to school has been that at times very tough part of the medicine journey for what I want most. Sometimes I think you have to go through what you don't want in order to actualize the highest ideal. And the highest ideal in the jungle that came through was I want to run around and throw the football. And that seems very glamorous on the surface, but what comes with that is some things that I don't always want to do.
Mm. Yeah, and it's like it's almost like you're willing to sacrifice a lot of like your short-term pleasures, like having to submit yourself to a school schedule and school like hours and timing, uh, just so you can like experience the
Yes.
purity of that competition. Because like yeah, fuck, you could go and throw a football around with your buddies, but like deep down you know that's not like the full expression of that competitive spirit. Like the full expression is no, you actually have to earn your way into a team and earn your way into a spot and earn your way off the bench. Like you have to earn every step of it. And I think deep down, and I think Brute touches on this briefly. This is why every man always feels the desire to like almost burn down everything he has and start over, just to prove to himself that he's earned everything he has. Which is why I think
Mm,
for a lot of people who've grown up with a decent amount of money, like God has always blessed my family with steady provision, so I've always had more than what I've needed. This experience for me of like, slowly like kind of removing myself from my parents' like umbrella and like doing things from scratch, uh, and kind of like living on my own is very cathartic because all it's doing is it's proving to myself I can do this. I got this. I'm not doing this because of dad's money. I'm building all this shit myself, um, and that I
yes.
think is like yeah, that is super cathartic to the male spirit. Um,
Tell me more about how that's been feeling and showing up in your life. Like to really be basically like free falling on the edge and completely sovereign. Like it's up to you. Tell me
Dude,
what
well,
that's been like.
it's been funny because um, it almost feels recently I've honestly just been bored. Like it's like I have all the sovereignty in the world. I have money coming in from multiple sources, so I know shit's taken care of. I have all the friends I could want. I'm doing all the cool shit I've wanted to do. Um, and now I'm just like sitting here just like fucking bored. Like man, like I mean, freedom is like it sounds really appealing when you don't have it. But when you have it, you realize like
Mm,
fuck, there's almost more like the fun is in willfully creating limits for myself and then transcending those just to prove to myself I can do it.
mm,
So I'll give you an example. So I DJ, and I've been slowly getting more and more into like the gig scene and the bar scene. And something that DJs do is every DJ has a USB, and in that USB you have all the tracks that you typically rip during your sets. And your USB is a very very prized item because you have all your favorite tracks. A lot of times you have unreleased songs that artists send you beforehand. Uh, it's like whoever has the best USB usually wins the game. And for some particular reason, like I really haven't taken the time to learn how to sync up the songs in my playlist to the DJ software because it's kind of like a little technical hassle. So I have about like probably 100 or so songs on my USB, that I like learned how to sync up with the DJ software once, but I've actually never taken the time to understand how that goes. So like I haven't added any songs to my USB in the past like 3 months. Which if you ask any DJ, it's like, wait, that's weird, bro. Like you should always be adding songs to your USB. Um, but in a way, I've told myself, it'd be funny if I can become big as a DJ, just ripping the same 100 songs and getting really good at like giving you a dynamic experience with the same songs. Because sure, I could play a good set with all the music in the world, but if I
mm.
choose to limit myself and say, hey, I'm going to prove to you that I'm so skilled that I can rip a good set with just a limited amount of songs. Um, I think that's more impressive almost, and it kind of forces me to like get creative. Um, and that's where like it's a
Yes.
common like uh, piece of like wisdom that like, or not wisdom, but just a common sentiment that there's nothing more intimidating than staring at a blank piece of paper, like where you have all the options available. But when someone gives you lines to color in, or they give you limits, like that's when you actually that's when the flow starts to come through. So I think by it's like I've been able to experience my life as like a total blank sheet of paper, which is very like and it's like wow, like that's exciting. But now I need to start drawing some lines and some limits so I can then exercise that full
Mm,
sovereignty within those bounds.
I like it. Yeah, and I think creating order, creating structure from the freedom, that is the essence of the masculine spirit.
Yes, yes, 100%, bro. Like yeah, I think I think we can tie this into a very metaphysical truth, which is like, you know, if you are infinite, right? If you were hypothetically laughing when I say hypothetically, if you were an infinite being, um, infinity is just like the complete absolute of everything. So there's no distinction. Like there's no distinction between, you know, more than or less than because it's just all there. So an infinite being is technically like unitary. It's like whole. It's like one. But for the infinite to experience like its own infinity, it has to create divisions within itself. Like
Mm,
it has to become limited. Um, so it's like, right, like we are the essence of God, infinity, wanting to experience the depth of our infinity. So we created this human experience as like a little game to like understand all the different levels and like the different refractions and different like gradients of the human experience. Um, because if we just always remained in our pure undivided state, we never would have gotten to like fully experience it. And I think
I
that
love it.
that applies. Yeah, I mean that big cosmic macrocosm applies to everything in like the micro.
Yeah, and I think this could be a good segue into another topic because we started talking about competition, strong masculine energy, how that's so powerful. But we're talking about the infinite. We're talking about like being fully embodied, fully integrated. The fully integrated man is also completely comfortable in his feminine.
Correct.
And I think that's where like red pill culture falls short or like
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
monk mode hustle culture falls short in my from my perspective is like you can't experience the full spectrum of the human experience by only being in your masculine energy. There's also
No,
a time and place to be deeply in your feminine energy. And the man who can be in his feminine energy is actually the most embodied masculine man because he's comfortable in that vulnerable feminine state.
I completely agree. I completely agree. That's
And
a that's a
yeah,
yeah that's a very hard like level for most guys to get through.
I think we should talk about how. So, because it could be easy to stay in like theoretical concepts and all this stuff, but I think bringing it into like, okay, what for us has led to a more fully embodied feminine side and how has that contributed to more masculinity? I think
Mm,
that could be powerful to like really get into the practical, like
I like
how
that.
did we do it?
Yeah, let's get some tangible examples in here.
Yeah. So I mean, is anything coming up for you related to this?
Yes. Okay. So let's say, I don't want to like kind of make up a fake example. I want to think of something concrete. Um, hmm. Well, I think it's good to look at first principles, right? I think the masculine principle is electric, and the feminine principle is magnetic. Uh, I
Mm,
think the default male uh, like program is like initiative, and the default female program is like receiving or like aligning. Hmm. So I think it's very common, when guys are very young, it's like they just want things to go their way. It's like they're like, you know, literally, literally like penetrating their way through time and space, um, like with initiative and like intent and action. um, and that works to open a lot of doors in the universe because that energy is required. But there comes
Hmm.
a point where, and I think this is especially true when it comes to women, um, like some doors are opened by not taking initiative and actually surrendering that initiative and that drive and giving it to someone else. And instead of saying, I want to do this, it's having not the humility, but like I guess, yeah, having the humility
I
to,
think it's
yeah,
humility.
I think so
Yeah.
too, to say, hey, what would you like to do? And not asking that in a manipulative way to try to coerce an answer, but like willfully give up all of their initiative and say, I'm transferring this to you to show that I trust you. Um, because they could choose something that I don't want to do, but I'm just for the sake of the principle, I'm going to give that choice to them. I think that for me, like learning to kind of put my ego to the side, like, especially because I don't know, like when I was younger, I used to think, bro, girls are actually really dumb and like they don't know what they want. Like that's a common sentiment amongst men. Girls don't know what they want. Um, but then it's like actually, bro, like what if they do? Like what if?
They want to be led,
Yes,
right?
they do want to be led, but I think they're willing to be led once that they see that you're willing to listen to them.
Mm,
Like you have to
that's a
earn
banger.
you have to earn your leadership. Like if you just walk into a room and
Mm,
say, "What's up, guys?" I'm Jack. Like I'm, everyone like give me your full attention. It's like, bro, like you got to read the room a little bit.
mm,
Like, but before you can earn the right to lead, you must first like bow at the door and listen for a little bit.
wow. That's beautiful. I
And
love that.
I think that goes for any male dominated space. But I think this goes especially when it comes to your relationship with a female. Um, is before you start acting like a leader in the relationship. You first got to make sure that like she wants to lead you. Because if you're not a man worth leading, like why like, and I think like that is like the ultimate challenge for mission as a man is becoming a man that leads not by force but by presence, who people like genuinely want to follow.
Mm,
Because yeah, I mean, anyone can intimidate their way into a leadership position, but that's not leadership, right? That's just like control. It's the opposite of leadership.
I think the example that's really popping in my head is the Last Supper.
Mm,
Jesus washes the feet of all his disciples.
that is crazy if you think about it. Like
It's incredible.
washing someone's feet.
It's really putting yourself in complete service.
It is.
And I
It,
remember I was watching the movie series, the Last Supper series. I'd highly recommend it. It's really good, especially if
mm,
you like look at it and watch it through a metaphysical lens. It's
mhm,
very deep. Um, Maybe deeper than most realize, but in that scene where Jesus comes back, he literally puts on like a feminine apron almost it looks like,
uh-huh.
and he's going to wash everybody's feet. And Simon or Peter, same guy, um he was like so resistant. He's like, "No, I will not let you do this."
Hmm.
And Jesus was like, "If you do not let me wash your feet, you are not aligned with anything I'm teaching."
Mm. Amen.
And I think Simon Peter, like his energy from
Mm.
the movie series and what I know about him, very strong, masculine, warrior energy.
Dude, I'm glad you're saying that because it's actually starting to click for me too. Like all throughout the Bible, Peter is just like this like brute. Like he just kind of brute forces his way through situations. There's two examples that pop up. One is when and I don't know if you're familiar with these. The disciples and Jesus are together, and then Jesus says like he basically says like I have to go and die. I have to go and sacrifice myself to fulfill my Father's will. And then Peter says like what like I'm not gonna let you do that. Like you're not doing that. And Jesus literally tells him, "Get behind me, Satan." Like he literally
Wow.
like cast the spirit of Satan on him. He's like, you do not know what you're saying. And this is funny because this is right after Jesus tells Peter, like, you, Peter, like, you understand who I am. You understand I'm the Messiah. I'm going to give you like the authority to like establish a church. Or like that interpretation that's actually up for interpretation. But he pretty much gives Peter like a commendation, and then immediately after, Peter says, "No, I'm not going to let you go die." And then Jesus says, "Get behind me, Satan." Um,
Wow. What I would love to dive deeper into that exact statement.
dude, actually, here, let me pull it up because I'm like I said, it's funny because all these Bible stories that I grew up with have been coming to surface in a new light for me recently. Um, with all this metaphysical understanding. Get behind me. Say, oh, here it is, bro. Fuck, this is so deep. Okay, so I'll read you from. This is Matthew 16. Uh, I'm going to start from verse 13, and I'm going to read from verse 13 to verse 23. Okay.
Cool.
Fuck. I mean, actually, I'm going to go to verse 28. Fuck. Okay. Ready? I'm just gonna just let the word speak for itself. Okay. So this is Matthew 16, verse 13. Now, when Jesus came into the district of Caesarea Philippi, he was asking his disciples, saying, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" Referring to himself. And they said, "Some say John the Baptist, and others Elijah, but still others say it's Jeremiah or one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" And Simon Peter answered and said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And then Jesus answered and said to him, "Blessed are you, Simon Barjona, because flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And
Mm.
I also say to you that you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overpower it. I
Wow.
will give you the
Chills.
keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth shall have been bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall have been loosed in heaven." Then he warned the disciples that they should tell no one that he was the Christ. From that
Mm.
time, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things from the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and be raised up on the third day. And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, "God forbid it, Lord. This shall never happen to you." But Jesus turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me, for you are not setting your mind on God's interests, but man's." Then
Mm.
Jesus said to his disciples, "If anyone wishes to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his
Mm.
cross and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? For the Son of Man is going to come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and will then repay each one according to his deeds. Truly I say to you, there are some of those who are standing here who will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." Boom.
Wow. It could take hours to just break that down.
It is so
Like
deep.
because he's speaking on so many different
On all the
levels.
levels, actually.
I'm a little bit lost in the "get behind me, Satan." That exact
Hmm.
wording. It's quite interesting to me. Like why? What was he
So
trying to
okay,
say
so I
there?
think Satan in like an occult, esoteric way represents um like worldliness, which represents like material reality, like Saturn's cube, like
Mm.
everything like we're it's like the Matrix, right? Material reality. You're thinking with your senses, like, but with your lower senses, not with like your spiritual sight. And for someone, like, let's say it's like people who live by sight are people who will look at probably you or me and our financial decisions or our leaps of faith, and they're like, "Well, how do you know it's going to work?" And you're like, "Well, we trust that it's going to work because we've received this like higher intuition." But they're like, "Well, but we can't see any proof." And we're like, "Well, we don't need to see it, we know it deep down," right? These are people who only believe what their eyes see. And I think in that moment, Jesus made it very clear. Part of my spiritual like destiny is to die for humanity, for their sins. And Peter, who was still in a very material state, said, "No, like God forbid it. That's not going to happen." So he was literally speaking in the spirit of someone who was only thinking materially. Um,
Mm.
which is why Jesus said, like, "Get behind me, Satan." Like, do not yeah. He was pretty much like casting that upon him because he was only thinking. He said, "You're setting your interests on the side of on God's interests, but man's." Um,
Mm. It's
and I
something I
think
want to definitely dive deeper into.
when you and
Like,
I
look
like
at that quote.
think about it, like if you and I were like if we spend our time around people who just like who aren't on the same frequency, like at some point we're just gonna be like I mean, respectfully, you guys just don't get it. Um, we're not going to like yeah, like you're not going to be sharing your plans, your spiritual plans, with someone who only sees a material reality.
Mm.
And I think Jesus was telling Peter, bro, like you gotta like look at the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
Hmm. Bro,
Dude,
I
I
highly
love
encourage
how we
you.
went into that tangent.
Dude, I highly encourage you, bro, to like, yeah, I don't know, maybe smoke a joint or whatever you want to do to get in like a state, and then read through one of the Gospels because the Gospels are like I believe are like the purest form of Scripture, um, because that you're reading like the words of Jesus directly,
Yes.
uh, and I would love to hear more of your takeaways because like I have a lot of like the situational contextual like information about the Bible, but like I'm actually really interested to like get your more metaphysical like spiritual perspective on those.
Mm. I think that maybe we have a part two space talking exactly about that.
Hmm.
I think I'd like to bring it full circle to what preceded the Jesus comment, which was like feminine energy as a man. So,
I
yeah, I
agree.
mean, I could go into some personal experiences of how this manifests, and I think the power of it as well.
Hmm.
So, going back to Thailand, what allowed me to really find my feminine, and for a lot of men, including myself, the feminine is always repressed. And when the feminine energy within oneself is repressed, that energy will then leak out into vices and into escapism,
Correct.
because the feminine is all about pleasure, sensuality, presence. And so a man that is overemphasized in his masculine, at the end of the night, all he wants to do is drink a bottle of wine or eat a tub of ice cream, because the feminine is not receiving the true nurturance that the spirit wants. Because the spirit can oscillate between masculine and feminine whenever the moment requires. So, to back it up, that was happening in my life a ton. I was so overemphasizing my masculine, like you could see it, like my discipline, work ethic, buzz cut, like I was so fucking dialed monk mode energy for so long, but that energy was overemphasized and it would leak out into me always needing to end the night with like I'm gonna go get a tub of ice cream, whatever it
Hmm.
is. And it wasn't until I discovered and unlocked the full expression of my feminine energy that those temptations and desires and vices, while not completely gone, I'm still human and they still arise, but mostly they just faded away into irrelevancy. And the body weight that I wanted to get to, or the body image that I got to, it didn't happen from more masculine energy, which is what I thought it would happen. It happened from more allowance of feminine energy to create a more integrated
Mm.
psyche. And so, how I did that, and the thing with feminine energy, like we can even get kind of nuanced with the language, It's like the feminine energy actually doesn't have to
No.
try. It doesn't do anything. It just is. It's
Yes,
just
yes.
being. It's being. And so in Thailand, I unlocked it a few ways. Like I can remember specifically laying in a hammock at like 3 p.m. on a Tuesday, where I usually would be like working in the world. And I'm just sitting there smoking a joint, laying there looking over at the sky. And this peace overwhelms me. Like, wow, I feel so content with what is right now. There's nowhere to strive to, there's nowhere to go. And that's the masculine. It's striving, it's what's in the future, it's pursuit, progress, goals. The feminine is just here, it's just present. Um, that's one example. I'll give two more. A second is hanging out with more girls and observing them from a place of curiosity. Like a quote that pops in my head from a friend who I was traveling with. We were walking around Walking Street in Pai, Thailand, where we're gonna be one
Let's
in a
fucking
few
go.
weeks, which is gonna be fucking awesome. And my masculine was kind of on. I'm like, okay, we need to find a place to eat. Let's like find a place, sit down. I can look up a place. And this girl is just like, let's just walk around and like notice what smells good. And I was like, whoa, that's
Mm.
interesting. Another little thing on that is I notice with women when they're embodied in their feminine, when they eat something from full presence, they dance. It's like common across all girls, and you don't really ever see like you see a girl take a first bite of ice cream or whatever it is, chocolate, and she's so in the sensuality experience of that, fully present, no guilt, just full love and appreciation. Girls start dancing when they
That's
eat,
beautiful.
which I found really
That's
interesting.
beautiful. I've actually like I can have some recollection of that, but I've never noticed that. That's a brilliant observation.
And I noticed it in myself when I'm very present and fully there, and like I really appreciate the ice cream or the bite of food or the cappuccino. Like I'm gonna start like dancing in the moment because it's just like the fullest expression of my spirit. And then the last little point I'll make, and I'll pitch it back to you, and I'd love to hear your reflections and thoughts, is I would go to raves by myself, 1,000 people at this party. I'd go dance by myself in the corner. And it was like I was just doing self therapy almost, like at the raves, to just fully allow myself to be fully there with no judgment.
Yes.
I'm going to end it with one quote. There's a book called Badgelina. It was recommended to me by an Israeli girl. It's a very common book, popular book in Israel. It's not very known over here. It's one of the best books I've ever read, one of the best spiritual books I ever read. And it talks about the archetypes of the king and the queen. It's very valuable to understand the
Mm.
energies through stories. And what it talks about with the queen is when she goes to the party, when she goes to the dance floor, she dances in the middle of the dance floor and everybody watches her and she never looks in the mirror.
Mm.
That hit me when I read that. I
Beautiful.
like probably like fell back in my seat.
Hmm.
So that was just a riff on the feminine energy, but I would love to hear your
Oof, that's
thoughts.
a lot to unpack. Well, I want to start with the last thing you said, which is he doesn't look at the mirror, and I think that is becoming increasingly rare, bro. Because when I went to Coachella a few weeks ago, all you would see is people dancing for the camera, like dancing like for the likes, for the clicks, and it was all very fake and engineered. And it made me really sad
Mm,
to see like we're out here in like arguably like the best place in the universe to listen to music, fully embodied present music, and like you're just concerned about looking good for an Instagram post. And
mm,
that made me pretty sad, like seeing like the amount of masks that people put up, like yeah, like almost not allowing themselves to fully be. So that's one, the first insight I get. The second one is where you're talking about girls like in the full presence of like eating something and you know they do a little dance. And this was actually a breakthrough I had on my first time taking mushrooms because my buddy told me, the guy I was doing them with, he said, by the way, food, especially like, you know, like fruits are going to taste really good. And before I took my first dose of mushrooms, I had seen that people wrote about the idea of like mushrooms just help you see what's already there. They're not helping you discover anything new. And so I had that concept floating around in my head. So the first time I took like 2 grams of golden teachers. We were chilling on the beach and we had some raspberries. And it's funny because I did so much prep work and so much, like, I studied so much of, like, the metaphysical and, like, all these things that we talk about before I took mushrooms. So by the time I actually took them, everything just clicked really beautiful. It's like the knowledge traversed from my brain all the way down to my heart, and I could feel it in my bones. I was like, oh, yep, this just makes sense. And it's funny because when we were eating the raspberries, he was like, bro, aren't these so good? I was like, bro, they taste like they've always tasted, but like now we're just paying attention to it. Before you were just too busy and you had your mind on other things. And that's kind of how I've been able to replicate that same state. Being sober from psychedelics is just like, before I take a meal, I almost imagine myself to be on mushrooms, which is like, I would just like, let's say I'm having a cappuccino, I'm like looking at it. I then like say to myself, wow, okay, right now I'm about to enjoy this cappuccino. And then I look at the cup, and then I start to like, for a moment, like I stop thinking about my day and like what I have to do tomorrow, but I start to think about like the craftsmanship of the cup and like who made this cup and how is it here now in my hands. Then I think about like the drink and like, whoa, like, you know, someone like actually poured this drink for me, and then I'm observing the texture of the drink and the color, and then like the way the bubbles are like forming around the edges, and then I'm like holding it and like feeling the weight of the cup in my hand, and then like, by the time I have my first sip, it's like it's almost like I've made a ritual out of the moment, and that makes everything taste like super duper good because all of your attention at a logical level, at a sensory level, at a mental level is connected with what you're doing. Um, and it's almost like a thought that I've had a lot the past few months that it always rings true and always snaps me to a point of like, this is probably like the best hack I know to snap to instant presence, is to remind myself that every single, like the entirety, this is actually crazy when you think about it, right? The entirety of history, like the creation of, the world, to like civilization, to the world wars, to the industrial age, to every single decision, every single cosmic event in history has led to me drinking this cappuccino right now. Which is true. Like, this is in that moment, everything has coalesced for you to be enjoying that cup. And then all of a sudden you realize this is actually a cosmic thing that I'm doing. But then you realize that's every single event in your life is the exact same thing. Like, every single moment has led up to this exact moment. And then you start walking around with a sense of like, whoa, like this is a big deal. Um, and I find that girls tend to be in that state more naturally than guys. But I would say that children children embody this state very, very naturally. And that kind of gets lost the older they get. But those are my
Yes.
thoughts.
And I love all of it, and the timing is quite synchronous because, well, one, I think your last comment on children leads us to our part two, which I think should maybe be all about Jesus. I think that'd be pretty
That would be.
powerful. And I mean, that quote, "Unless you become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." That is one of my favorites.
Amen.
Um, but you talk about a cappuccino, and I'm actually about to find parking, and I'm about to go on a date, and I'm gonna get a cappuccino. So
Amazing.
I'm gonna be thinking about everything you just said, um, in terms of presents, and I'm super excited. But I think this is a good place to end it off. I'm gonna try to find a parking spot right now, and yeah, I think this leads us to a nice part
Fuck yeah,
two.
bro. I'd love to hear some. Yeah, report back on the experience of drinking that cappuccino. Like, ooh, okay. Can I add like some last bit of context here, really quickly?
Okay.
Um, there's two ways of looking at it. You can treat this so with everything that we've just talked about. You can treat this cup of cappuccino as the first cappuccino you've ever had, or the last one you're ever going to have.
Mm,
And I believe both of those frameworks will invoke the same presence response. But you actually have
beautiful.
to like
I'm gonna think
really,
about
like
that.
really believe, like, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna have a cappuccino again. This is the last one I get before I die.
It's gonna be interesting to tell the girl the context of the significance of this cappuccino.
I mean, you can just say this is significant because you're here and I'm having it with you, and that'll work.
Ah, that's pretty smooth.
Fuck yeah, bro.
All
Well,
right,
dude,
bro. I'm just parked. I'm gonna hop off. This was so fun. I'm grateful for you being so open to
likewise,
it.
bro.
And yeah, I think maybe we put it on Spotify or something too.
Why
Why
not,
not?
bro? Yeah, I mean, yeah. Let's let this get posted, and I'm excited to cook more spaces soon.
Cool. All right, bro. I'll be in touch with you soon. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody that popped in and
Yeah, thanks,
listened.
guys.
And yeah, until
Fuck
next
yeah.
time.
All right, everyone. Have a blessed rest of your day.
Much love.
Peace.
See you. Peace.
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.